Do you believe in God?
I believe there's some explanation for this universe, which you might call God.
Elon Musk once said something very strange. If there is a God watching over us, he would be one of the first to see it. And guess what? He thinks he did. Recently, Elon pointed to a mysterious object in space, a celestial body, claiming that it is where God lives. He says that it matches the description of heaven in the Bible, with its starry, out-of-this-world features. Is what Elon is saying here really true? So, what do NASA experts think about this strange space discovery? Stay tuned as we unravel this mysterious question today. We dive into those mysteries, this so-called celestial hotspot in the universe where God can rest. Plus, we will reveal what Elon said about the existence of God on camera. Before we begin, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss anything.
I mean, let's just say, I agree with the principles that Jesus advocated, and there's great wisdom in the teachings of Jesus, and I agree with those teachings.
For a lot of Christians, the phrase "bright morning star" rings a bell. It's straight out of the Bible's book of Revelation. That's where the Son of God calls himself by that name, right after settling into his new home in heaven as the King of everything. But over at NASA, the folks who love hard facts over faith see something else when they hear morning star. They're talking about Earendel, a stunning cosmic discovery they're checking out with the James Webb Telescope. This dazzling object is so jaw-droppingly gorgeous that NASA nicknamed it the Morning Star, inspired by the Bible's title, because its beauty was just too mind-blowing to explain with anything they already knew. Now, this Earendel, NASA's morning star, is practically as old as the universe itself, and it's got the internet buzzing. Elon Musk and tons of astronomers are even calling it the place where God lives. Here's why. Earendel was around over 13 billion years before Earth even had life. It's parked way out at the edge of the universe, hinting it popped up right after the cosmos kicked off. Scientists figure it's about 13 billion years old, just 800,000 years younger than the universe itself. But new clues suggest it might be even older. And get this, Earendel outshines giant stars in its galaxy, the Sunrise Arc, despite being smaller. NASA experts say this happens because of something called gravitational lensing, where gravity bends light, letting this little gem steal the spotlight from bigger, brighter stars around it. Normally, a tiny star like Earendel wouldn't outshine the big shots in its galaxy, the Sunrise Arc. But Elon Musk, and plenty of others, thinks there's more to it. They say the universe is giving Earendel a special spotlight, like it's a cosmic VIP. Elon even calls it a majestic stellar home, so grand that the bigger stars step aside to let it glow the brightest. NASA hasn't spilled all the beans about this space marvel yet, but it's already making a splash, not just with scientists, but also with religious folks, especially Christians. For them, Earendel isn't just a star. It's a divine address, a real spot in the universe where God might be kicking back, watching over everything. No surprise, Elon Musk's bold claim turned heads. Some Christians even wonder if this stunning star could be the same one that lit the way to Jesus' birth over 2,000 years ago. Meanwhile, space fans who aren't so religious are rolling their eyes, feeling like they've seen this movie before. They're flashing back to a silly 1994 Weekly World News story that shouted NASA had found heaven, complete with a totally fake, photoshopped pic. It was a flop that had people chuckling at religion. And now, with all the hype around Elon Musk and NASA's morning star, some think we're in for another laugh fest. So, What's the real deal with Earendel? The journey to understanding Earendel, let's call it the long road to Earendel, started way back in the mid-90s. Back in 1990, NASA launched the Hubble Space Telescope to snap some seriously awesome shots of outer space. From the moment it blasted off, it started beaming back jaw-dropping pics of nebulae and galaxies. Think cosmic eye candy. For the first few years, until late March 1995, scientists were over the moon with every stunning image it sent. The hype was real, and it seemed like the sky was the limit, until something totally bonkers happened. On April 1st, 1995, Hubble sent NASA a picture that felt more like an April Fool's prank than a breakthrough. It wasn't just another pretty space scene. It showed stuff that looked too wild to be real. Picture this: 3 massive pillars of dust, like a perfect trio of towering clouds, lined up so neatly it couldn't just be random luck. Scientists were scratching their heads. Was this for real? And that wasn't even the craziest part. The image was so mind-boggling that it took the experts 6 whole months to figure out what they were even looking at before they dared tell the world. Right before they spilled the beans, they gave those funky clouds an epic name: the Pillars of Creation. Why? It was a nod to a famous sermon by Charles Spurgeon, a big-deal Christian thinker from way back. They thought it fit because it looked like new stars were being born inside that misty mess. The 2 astronomers leading the charge, Jeff Hester and Paul Scowen from Arizona State University, were pumped to share their cosmic detective work. They'd cracked the case, or so they thought, and couldn't wait to show everyone what Hubble had uncovered. It was time to let the world in on this out-of-this-world discovery. Jeff Hester and Paul Scowen were super excited about their discovery. They thought it'd help everyone understand how stars are born and how they shake up the space around them. So, on November 2nd, 1995, they showed the world their amazing Hubble photo of the Pillars of Creation. At first, people were blown away by how gorgeous and mysterious it looked, exactly the reaction the astronomers were hoping for. But then, things took a wild turn. Calling those dusty clouds the Pillars of Creation turned out to be a big oops. Why? Because tons of folks saw the picture and thought, wait a sec, this looks like the celestial city from the Bible. The name came from a famous 19th century preacher, Charles Spurgeon, who'd written about pillars holding up the universe as part of God's ongoing creation. Now, NASA was showing off these giant space pillars where stars were being born, and people were like, that's it, proof of heaven. Headlines screamed that NASA had found heaven in space, and the idea spread like crazy online and in the news. Some even thought NASA was about to send astronauts to check it out. Forget the moon. Straight to the pearly gates. Jeff and Paul realized they'd accidentally started a cosmic rumor and rushed to set the record straight. They explained that the Pillars of Creation were just natural gas and dust clouds, powered up by young stars, not a divine zip code. But here's the kicker: a lot of people didn't buy it, or didn't want to. The idea of a heavenly city in space was way more thrilling than plain old science. So, for years, even today, stories about the pillars being part of heaven have kept going strong. And get this, it wasn't even the first time something like this had happened. Just the year before, there were even wilder tales about heaven floating around up there. 6 days before Valentine's Day, a wild story hit the stands. Weekly World News, a tabloid famous for its crazy headlines, claimed NASA's Hubble Space Telescope had snapped pics of heaven itself, a giant glowing white city floating in space. They even had a fancy high-res image to prove it. It sounded nuts, but people ate it up. By the next day, every news outlet was buzzing about it. Things got so out of hand that NASA had to step in and say, "Hold up, this is fake." Turns out, the photo was just some artwork slapped onto a real Hubble background, cooked up by the tabloid to sell papers. Weekly World News was famous for stuff like this. Tales of aliens, monsters, and demons were their bread and butter. This heaven in space bit was just another wacky story in their lineup. But here's where it gets juicy. Fast forward over 20 years, and fiction started feeling a little too real. In 2016, Hubble sent NASA some mind-blowing new pics, this time of a super far-off group of stars, part of a galaxy so old it's practically the universe's grandparent. We're talking 13 billion light-years away. That means the light we saw in 2016 left there 13 billion years ago, not long after the universe kicked off with the Big Bang 14 billion years back. For NASA, it was like peeking into a time machine to see the baby pictures of the cosmos. Pretty exciting stuff. There was just one catch. This galaxy was so far away that Hubble couldn't get a clear close-up. But the scientists didn't give up. They figured out that this distant galaxy was acting like a giant magnifying glass in space, something called a gravitational lens. That meant it could zoom in on even older galaxies and stars hiding behind it, making them look bigger and clearer. Suddenly, they weren't just studying one ancient galaxy. They were getting a sneak peek at an even older one beyond it. About a month later, in late 2016, a famous physicist and astronomer named Dan Coe managed to snap some clear, detailed shots of this newly discovered galaxy. The brightest part of it was shining just as strong as another well-known galaxy called Pascal's Galaxy. They decided to call this beauty the Sunrise Arc. Fast forward almost 3 years to early 2019, NASA's experts took another peek at the latest pics of the Sunrise Arc and spotted something super weird. There was this glowing dot, crazy bright, but it didn't look like a galaxy or a bunch of stars clumped together. No one could figure out what it was. So another big-name astronomer, Brian Welch, put together a crack team to solve the mystery. For 3 years, they dug into the photos, using all kinds of cool tricks and fancy tech to study the light patterns. They ran the images through different filters to check out the colors and figure out what was going on with that glowing spot in the Sunrise Arc. Finally, in March 2022, they cracked it. That bright dot was actually just one single star. This blew their minds. How could one little star shine so bright when it was surrounded by massive galaxies packed with billions of bigger stars? They couldn't explain it yet, so they gave it a cool name, Earendel, which means morning star in an old language. Fun fact, that's a name Jesus used for himself in the Bible's last book. And it's not the first time space nerds have borrowed Bible names for stuff they can't quite wrap their heads around. Take Venus, for example. It got its name way back in the 1st century, also meaning morning star, though it's tied to Lucifer, the light bringer from the Bible's book of Isaiah. Or check out Methuselah, a planet in the Scorpius constellation named in 2003 after the Bible's oldest guy, who supposedly lived nearly 1,000 years. Through 2023 and into the next year, the experts kept digging into Earendel's secrets. But what they found next wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. It was kind of a bummer. Brian Welch and Dan Coe, the astronomers behind the Pillars of Creation and the stunning morning star, Earendel, hit a mix of thrilling and heartbreaking discoveries in early 2024. These guys weren't big on believing in God, even though they'd given their finds names tied to Christian ideas. What they uncovered made them almost wish Earendel really was heaven, like some folks thought. All the natural clues pointed to something they'd been dreading, and finding out they were right stung a little. Here's the deal. If their math checks out, Earendel probably doesn't even exist anymore. But if it's truly God's cosmic hangout, maybe it's still shining bright up there. Here's what Brian and Dan figured out. For a star its size, Earendel likely only lived for less than 10 billion years before going out with a bang. A huge supernova explosion. What we see today is just an old snapshot, a glow from 13 billion years ago, because that's how long it takes light to zip from where Earendel was to our eyes. Time travel, but with starlight. So, how did Earendel even get started? They pieced it together like this. Less than 1 billion years after the Big Bang, giant clouds of dust and gas started clumping up into a small nebula. This cloud was mostly hydrogen. Super simple stuff. The most common building block in the universe back then. Gravity got to work, pulling bits of the hydrogen together. And as it squished tighter, things heated up. Big time. The core of this clump got so hot and squeezed that it kicked off a nuclear reaction called fusion. That's when hydrogen atoms started smashing together to make helium. And boom! Light started pouring out. That's the moment Earendel was born. At first, it was just a little ball of sizzling gas sitting in the middle of a way bigger nebula, ready to light up the cosmos. As millions of years rolled by, Earendel kept cooking with nuclear fusion, growing bigger, hotter, and brighter. The energy from all that fusion pushed back against gravity, which was trying to squish the star down. Eventually, Earendel found its groove and settled into being a full-grown cosmic giant. Unlike our Sun, which is pretty average, Earendel ballooned into a massive size before chilling out. But here's the catch. Big stars like that burn through their fuel super fast, so it wasn't built to last long. While our Sun glows a cozy yellow, Earendel was a cool blue. Pretty typical for huge stars. In pictures, though, it looks red because the light stretches out over the crazy long trip to us. About 500 million years into its life, another star popped up nearby, a companion star. This little buddy was way smaller and cooler than Earendel, about the size and color of our Sun. It started orbiting Earendel, spinning around it for over 1 million years like a planet would. While they danced together, Earendel and its companions swapped huge amounts of energy. This created a big, swirling disk of gas and dust that slowly got sucked into the smaller star. The more it gobbled up, the bigger the companion grew, eventually getting hefty enough to stand on its own. But even with the companion snagging more stuff than it gave back, it couldn't save Earendel. The big blue star was burning through its gas supply way too fast. After just 3 million years, Earendel's core ran out of hydrogen, the stuff it needed to keep shining. With no fuel left, gravity started winning and the star began to collapse. To hang on, it got insanely hot and started fusing heavier stuff like helium, carbon, and oxygen. But that burned out even quicker. With nothing left to hold it together, Earendel's outer layers caved in, triggering a massive explosion. A supernova. This blast was so powerful, it blew off some of the companion star's outer layers, sending energy and stardust flying everywhere. Good thing the companion star was far enough away from Earendel. It survived the supernova blast, but it didn't come out unchanged. After the explosion, it started spinning faster, and its growing gravity pulled in leftover dust and debris from Earendel. Over millions of years, all that cosmic junk started sticking together, forming bigger chunks that swirled around the companion star. Slowly, but surely, this turned into a brand new solar system, complete with planets and moons. The rest of Erendel's bits and pieces zoomed off into space, getting snagged by the gravity of other big objects out there. Over time, they became part of different planets and stars all across the universe. That supernova wasn't just a big boom, it spread out the ingredients for life, like tiny building blocks, scattering elements everywhere. Those are the same elements that make up the planets we know today. Stars are born, they shine bright, and then they bow out, leaving behind the stuff that makes life possible. Earendel was one of billions of stars that came before Earth, and when it blew up, it gave us a gift, the materials we need to exist. From the oxygen we breathe to the carbon in every living thing. Erendel's leftovers are a big reason we're here. Its mark is all around us. Earendel was so jaw-droppingly amazing that people thought it might actually be heaven. But if it was heaven, what would it look like up close? Let's imagine it. Learning about this star sparks all kinds of wild ideas. It's one of those rare things that mixes science and faith together perfectly. Even though Earendel is the farthest star we've ever spotted from our solar system, seeing it up close would feel like pure magic. Its single light shines so bright it could almost outdo billions of stars combined. And here's the coolest part. What we see today is a 13-billion-year-old snapshot, like a glowing postcard from the dawn of time, sent just for us. To many religious folks, the way an entire galaxy acts like a giant magnifying glass, making Earendel shine as bright as a whole cluster of stars, feels like a heavenly high five, pointing everything toward the Creator's throne. Even if you're just into science, there's plenty to gawk at. Earendel is a massive B-type star, way hotter, bigger, and brighter than our Sun. Its surface is at least 4 times hotter than the Sun's and 1,000,000 times brighter, even without any cosmic zoom lens. Our Sun, a smaller G-type star, is much cooler and only 4.6 billion years old, while Earendel was born when the universe was still a baby. We wouldn't even know it was there if not for the galaxy's magnifying trick, boosting Erendel's light over 40,000 times, making it nearly as dazzling as the galaxy around it. So, what if Earendel really was divine? If it were heaven, it'd still be shining today, eternal, like the Creator's home is supposed to be. Up close, though, its insane gravity would squash anything we sent near it, so we'd never get a good look. The Bible paints heaven as a celestial city with streets of see-through gold, where death and decay don't exist. And according to Revelation, this city wouldn't just float in space. It'd come down to earth. Imagine Jesus, the living morning star, ruling over everything as king, shining so bright that we wouldn't even need the sun anymore. Not everyone buys into that idea, but Elon Musk seems to think Earendel is a big clue pointing us that way. Tons of astronomers remember it as the star that made heaven feel real. So, what's your take? Is Earendel a sneak peek at the real heaven? Or just another burned-out star floating in the giant sea of space? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button. Oh, and check out the next video popping up on your screen. You're gonna love it.